Steve and I are in the shop and we're getting ready to put a brand new transmission pan in this 2012 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. It has a 3.6 in it. Transmission pan is rotted, so we just pulled the Jeep in. We're going to replace the pan for the customer. Before we get started, remember to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and subscribe to all of our notifications. That way you'll get a heads up when we upload a new video.
So we're going to drop the transmission pan down because it's leaking. It's got some rods pitting in it. And we're going to disconnect the exhaust over here, these studs. And the transmission has like these clamps that hold it up in place here. And they look like they're Allen heads. We're going to take those down. And we want to remove the cross member, which got 18mm bolts. And we're going to hang the exhaust down so we have good access for the pan. We're going to change the filter and fluid and install the new pan on it. The drive shaft can stay in, and we just got 3 18mm to remove this cross member, and we're going to get after it. So we're going to remove these studs here, and Laval bought new studs from Chrysler, so they're pretty rotted down to pencils here. So this is a 13mm originally, now it's a 10. So we're going to tap a socket on, we're going to heat the top side here, and we got some small vice grips we're going to crimp on this and try and get it to back out. We're trying to avoid drilling today, but we'll see how it all works out. We're going to heat both of these up, grab them with vice grips and crack them loose, and we've tapped 10mm onto the tops of them. And we're gonna heat them up right now and see how we work out. So we've actually liking an engineer today, all right? So they had nutserts inside the exhaust flange here. So when we tried heating them, of course, they were like pencils, they broke. And we heated them up a little bit and we used a long punch and we were able to just drive the nutsert right out. Now we have some 8mm serrated nuts that we're gonna put on here with the new bolts that we've all bought. And we have passed this part of the job. Okay, so we took the two 15mm bolts out of the mount over here, and the one transmission pan bolt on this side over here is that they're all T30s, and it's so tight that we're going to just jack the transfer case and the transmission up so that we can get our little quarter drive ratchet set up in there. So there isn't too much room, but there's just enough that we're going to be able to get this thing to go up. So we're going to find a nice comfortable spot here on our transmission, and we're probably going to go right over here and we'll set a rag on this, and then we're just going to lift this thing up and see how far it goes up. We got a 13, one more bolt here, another 16mm, 3 bolts. Okay, now I'm going to jack it up. Wow, look at that, huh? Now Laval can get right in there with his quarter drive ratchet. And we're gonna go just up and up. I think, you good there, Laval?
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. All right. We put a rag underneath the jack between the transfer case, and we're not really forcing it up. It's just kind of going up on its own, so we're not straining anything. We get these 3 studs here for the mount, for the back of the transmission mount, and it was real easy to pull it up. And we have the exhaust disconnected and it's down on it, so we got clearance here. Now it's just a matter of having them take the pan down. And the rot spot was pretty good, so everything's wet. We're gonna dry everything down nice and clean. You can feel them right over the top here.
Yeah. So there are 6 T30 bolts that hold the pan in place. So we're gonna remove those right now. There's 3 on one side and 3 on the other side.
Unfortunately, we had one bolt here break, and we're working the 2 front ones, the T30s, have these sleeves that they run up inside, and the bolt is steel and the sleeve is aluminum, and it oxidized and froze in there. So we're able to extract the stud now from the transmission, and we're gonna never seize it and get a new bolt. We should just be able to get a 10mm head bolt that'll fit right up in there, no problem. And of course, we're gonna never seize this to make sure that it's not happening again. I think he's sliding on the vice grips. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. That's fucking connected in one piece to that heat shield, dude. This heat shield bolt is connected to it. This is all one solid piece,
look
bro.
at that.
So we need a 10 to take that off.
10mm bolt in here, so we gotta undo the 10mm to get this out right there. A little bracket. And it could be a little stubborn. There's also a 10mm way up there.
And this front corner one to take the bolt down has a 10mm with the heat shield on the side that we're going to take down, and we'll get these to crack loose. Hopefully they'll be better than the other one. Oh, you got it? Good. That shield's moving, huh? Just one bolt. Trying to wedge in and get this thing to come down off the stud.
After hammering on it for a little bit, we were able to get that little ear off the studs. Now we're going to take the stud out from the broken bolt. Took a little persuasion, but we were able to get it out of there. Just be patient. So right now we got the 2 hardest bolts out. We're working on going around the rest of this pan and getting the other 4 bolts out. We cracked them loose. The other 4 cracked loose real easy. Right, Laval?
Oh, geez, like a dream.
Like a dream. So we're going to take these out and take down the pan.
So let me let some bleed out.
One bolt at a time. Right, Steve?
Yeah. Of course, this one came right down the ball.
Yeah.
Look at that pretty little filter, huh? It's how fucking small that filter
Yeah,
is.
it's not, when he gave it to me, I'm like, what is that?
Freaking kidding me?
I got this bolt set up right here.
Okay.
So before we put the new pan in, we're gonna put a new transmission filter in, right, Laval?
That's right.
So it just pop into place. I took the old one out.
There's a clip in the back.
Yeah. It just kind of pops right in just like that.
So we got a stud extractor here, 6mm from Cornwell Tools. They really work well. You're gonna slide them up over the broken stud, and then as you turn them, they lock, and it's just extracting the stud from the case. And the reason the bolts broke for us was that the bolt was frozen in that sleeve, the aluminum sleeve that holds the pan up, and that's it. It comes right out. These things were slick. I think they were like $60 for the kit, and you get 4 different sizes, and it really works well.
So this pan here is a boltless, kind of like a boltless can. There's not like a GM or Ford or Chrysler. So these are the inserts, and they click in right there, and the bolts go through, and the gasket will go on top, and that's what holds your pan up right there. So there's no bolt holes in this. The Mercedes transmission, I guess, German engineering. At your best.
So the pan gasket is reusable. So we transferred the pan gasket from the other pan to the new one, cleaned it all up, and we're gonna wipe down the underside of the transmission. Looks like Laval already did that, and make sure there's no debris on there or anything stuck. If there's any material stuck on it, you can use like a razor blade to scrape it out of the way, wipe it down with a clean cloth. And make sure everything's dry before putting your brand new transmission pan up there. So this is the old transmission pan we took out of the Jeep. It's starting to like bubble in spots, and it was starting to leak through. And flip it over. Let's see, I'll show you the magnet. Here's a new pan. A new pan came with a magnet and actually a drain plug too, which is great. I don't know why they don't come like that from the factory. We say it every episode. But make sure that the magnet is in the same position as it was from the factory. So here, the magnet, we put it in the same place as it was from the factory. Make sure the magnet's kind of lined up in the same area. So now we should be ready to bolt this new transmission pan into place.
So we have the bolts that ride into the shoulders, and this is what crimps to hold the pan on. And we had oxidation build up in between here, and that's why the two front bolts broke. So we wire-wheeled all our bolts up nice, and we're gonna never seize them so that this won't oxidize in the housing here again. And once these broke off, these did not come out of the transmission bad at all. They came right out with the stud extractor. So the problem was the two front bolts being seized were inside the collar here. So we cleaned it all up, we'll never seize it, and that shouldn't happen again.
And we got the new bolts we'll be putting in the front where the ones that were stubborn. So they had easy accessibility, and we'll put never seize on them.
The thread size on those was 6x1s. So we're getting the pan up. I'm holding it up for Laval. He's gonna catch a couple of bolts. I get the pan. We never seized all our bolts. He's gonna get everything started with a little snug, and we're gonna catch all of our bolts before we tighten anything. Nice to have an extra set of hands here to do this, so you got a buddy hanging around the shop, put him to work.
Beats doing it on the ground.
Yeah. We're really happy with the way this stud thing worked out for the manifold. That was pretty slick. So after we get this together, we'll show you the flange on the other side. It's pretty much the same way, and we're probably gonna knock those inserts out as well and put some new hardware over there. And we're gonna dry everything down because everything's wet here, so we're gonna dry it all down nice. And we've got the transmission jacked up, so we have access to get to these rear ones now. They were a little tight, but we've got that in place now. We got 4 bolts caught on the pan, it's holding itself up. He'll be able to get the rest of the studs snugged up on this, and we're gonna start wiping this all down. So Laval's gonna put up the front one here, which is the special one that's got the extra boss for the bracket, the heat shield. So that's the one that goes in the right front. So that one's different from the other ones. He's got it all never seized up, and he's gonna put that one in.
I think it's easy.
The cameraman's job is to drink the video. Available?
This is definitely a 6-pack to 10 beers. At least 10 beers by the time you're done this job. Easy.
There you go.
So Laval's got all the bolts back in. He's got the front corner one on, the special one here, and he's got to put his heat shield back on over here.
Yeah, Laval.
And we got the 10mm by 1, 6mm by 1 threads, 10mm head on, and that's the bolt thread size is 6mm by 1. He put them all on, then he snugged them all up. He's got them all nice and tight. We're gonna sit our exhaust flange back in place. We got our new hardware. We're gonna bolt that up in a minute. We wiped down the cross members here, and you know, he's got everything back in place now. We're gonna drain and fill the transfer case, and we'll show you how to do that. And we have a dipstick on this vehicle up top, so he'll be able to fill that right up. And all he's gonna do to button up down here is put his heat shield on. We'll catch these new studs and bolts that he got, and the transmission part of it is all done.
So there's 2 bolts on this. There are 2, 10mm bolts?
Yep.
Right.
But there's another section to the shield that holds this in place.
Yeah.
And that's gonna go right down. It's gonna clip right there.
There it is, right up
Goes
there.
that, so that's gonna go up there.
All right, so we're gonna get the 2 10mm bolts and bolt that piece back in, then it'll tackle that exhaust flange.
So this is the shim, or the part of the heat shield that goes up top that holds it in place.
So we lowered down the transfer case, and Laval's putting the 3 15mm bolts back up on the studs here. 16, excuse me, 16 mils. plate back up. We're catching all the bolts. We never wire wheel them and never seize them so that they don't corrode if we have to take them down again. These are all 18s and there's 4 on this. We're gonna get them all started and then he's gonna snug them down. We took this off to do the transfer case fluid change. Otherwise it makes a mess to try and drain the fluid. So I'm gonna snug that up and we're gonna get our front skid plate back on underneath the training pan too. Alright, we got the last one going up in place here. We wiped everything down. Kind of recess up into the plate here. You probably put the socket underneath it, easy to catch it. And there's only 3 for this one. All right, I'm gonna run these up and we'll be good. Over here, Tom, we got our transmission pan all cleaned up. The new pan's on with the drain plug, which is really nice. We've got our heat shield back on over here, and we're just wiping everything down. He's gonna run this thing through the car wash, through the undercarriage wash to finish, you know, rinsing any of the minor stuff. We got our new bolts in over here that he put in for the exhaust, which he got from Chrysler, and he's got those all snugged up. And we got our heat shields back on. And we're going to drop it down and we're going to fill the transmission. It does have a dipstick on it, and we'll be back and going here.
It's now just going to refill the transmission with fluid. So lucky for us, on this vehicle, it still has a dipstick to check the fluid level in the transmission. You better watch some of our other videos where we have to fill up the pan, to put the pan up full of fluid, like on an Expedition or an Explorer, because it's not really a dipstick.
Well, they're sealed units.
They don't make it easy anymore.
So we're gonna put 2 quarts in and see where we're at.
See where we're at.
Definitely need more.
Yeah, a little more.
Yeah. So before you want to go through your gears, you want to make sure there's enough in the pan. Yeah, that's better. We're going to go through our gears and that reading just going to drop down. Plus the fluid has to seep down the dipstick. So I get the transmission in neutral. That's what the dipstick says. We'll see where we're at. Yeah, we drop right down. That's the back side, but so we could add some more in there. Still not completely full.
So we just put 4 quarts of transmission fluid in, checked it. We're almost at the top, the high mark of the stick. So we'll probably put another half a quart in. But you know, add a couple of quarts in, see where you are. Add a little more to bring it up to the proper level. And this is it. Just wrapping this one up. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. I will reply back to you. Thanks for watching.